After today's Republican presidential primary, the voters in Wisconsin have another important election coming up. They will decide whether to remove Governor Scott Walker. He's a hero to some and a villain to others for taking on the public employee unions. Jim Axelrod spoke with Walker about the recall effort.
Last year, the Wisconsin Capitol was under siege, occupied by unionized government workers and their supporters out to defeat the plans of Governor Scott Walker.
Union busting!
Walker's proposals passed the legislature. Public employee unions lost the right to negotiate contracts, and employees were required to kick in more of their own money for health and pension benefits.
The unions think you're a union buster. Are you a union buster?
No. I know that collective bargaining is not a right. It's an expensive entitlement. It's about time somebody stood up for the hardworking taxpayers of our state.
When it's talked about as perhaps the most important non-presidential election of this decade, they're talking about the philosophical underpinnings to this notion of how much public employees are going to have to contribute.
The larger philosophical issue is who controls things in government? Do the taxpayers or do the public employee union bosses? Because in the past, the cycle has been that taxpayers' money goes to pay for legitimate wages and benefits, but on top of that, union dues. Those dues go in part for political activities that then support candidates who ultimately say, we'll spend more money on more benefits and more employees and stick it to the taxpayers. There's nobody in that cycle who stands up for the taxpayers.
The unions say membership has safeguarded the rights and benefits of workers. Once the law passed,
recall Walker!
Nearly 1 million petitions were signed to force the governor to stand for re-election after only a year and a half in office. Campaign money is pouring into Wisconsin from both sides. All told, almost $38 million was spent on the 2010 race. Walker predicts the recall election is likely to cost $70 million.
This is going to be not only an all-time record for Wisconsin, it's probably going to be one of the most costly gubernatorial elections in the country.
And it's the second one of your first term.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully I can be the only governor in American history to say I was elected twice in the same term. What do you want to do in the future?
A recent poll shows Walker leading all three of his most likely Democratic challengers. The voters will have the final word in June. Jim Axelrod, CBS News, Milwaukee.
We checked today, and it turns out in U.S. history, only 2 governors have ever been recalled. North Dakota's Lynn Frazier in 1921 and California's Gray Davis in 2003, when voters kicked him out and elected Arnold Schwarzenegger.